So it was like 19 years ago when Julia was living at home. She's our youngest daughter. I don't know whoever hears this, who knows her, but she's a very bright, beautiful woman at her age now. But when she was 17, she was just this fresh-faced youth. She had youth, and she's still young. I mean, compared to this thing, but she was just this beautiful, bright, bubbly, optimistic kid, and we loved raising her, as well as our oldest daughter is too. But this story pertains to Julia. Well, as it is, she was driving, and Davenport had a curfew back at this time in the early 2000s, I think, and or whatever. And she had her friend Tessa over, and she needed to take her home. And it's too far for her to walk, but it's not very far to drive. And so she just thought she would hop in her car and run her home. And I don't know where me and Janet were, if we were in bed or if we were out and about. So she leaves, and evidently she ran a stop sign. There's like one stop sign between maybe two here in her house, and it was right under the nose of the Davenport Police Department. And so he lit him up. He pulls her over, and he gave her a ticket. Gave her a ticket. Thank you. And the next morning, she told us about it, which I don't remember very well. I know the story, but I don't recall having much reaction. Crap happens. I've had tickets. Janet's had a couple. But anyway, we didn't overreact or anything. But later in the week, Tessa's mom wrote a note for Julia to give to us to take it to the courthouse to fight the tickets. Saying that Tessa lived too far to walk home at night in the dark, and she needed a ride home. And Julia was just doing the right thing. And that made sense. And so I decided we'll fight this ticket. Something I'd never even thought of. I've never even been to the courthouse at this point in my life. I just stay out of trouble, I guess. So the day came where we were headed to the courthouse, and Julia was Julia at 17. She had I remember she had blue sweatpants on, the shiny kind, a white shirt, her long brown hair in a ponytail. Just she had that youth, that beauty that comes with youth. It's a special time, and she was just beautiful and bubbly, as I said before, bright and just a joy. And so we get down to the courthouse, we pull in the parking lot, and we see a line going into the building. There's a couple cops there in their uniforms, and there's just a wide variety of humanity, all ages, all colors. And there's quite a few people in orange jumpsuits. Now, there's a jail right next door to the courthouse, or attached to the courthouse, so these people were obviously in more trouble than Julia. And so we go through the metal detector, and we're in a line, and there's this guy in an orange jumpsuit in front of me and Julia. He has a bald head. He's probably 30s, and on the back of his neck is a freaking eyeball that's looking back at me and Julia. And I don't remember talking about it. I remember we probably looked at each other and we're like, whoa, just kind of a freaky deal. So we take our seat, and the judge is at the head of the room out there, and he's got his readers on, and he's 60, he's probably my age then that I am now. And, he's probably had this gig for a long time, and he's probably seen a lot and heard a lot. He's probably a little weathered by it all. I mean, I would think, that'd be a exhausting job. I don't know what his dealings with the people in the orange jumpsuits were. Was he sentencing them to a few days in the county jail? Was he asking, bail? I don't know that sort of thing, but it had to be kind of a drag. And then there's the people that want to argue their tickets, like us, and just the whole vibe was kind of like the dregs of society were there, except for Julia with her blue sweatpants and her white shirt and her ponytail, and so we're sitting there, and he's went probably through 10 of them. And he's, like I said, he's got his readers down on his nose, and he looks down and he says, Julia Kootmas, which was a pretty good job at our name. It wasn't right, but it's close enough. So we walk up, and he's got his head down, looking at her little file, and his like I said, his glasses are there, and he looks up at Julia as she gets to the bench, and Julia smiles and says, "Hi, Judge." And the judge's his demeanor, it just changed. He got a kind of a smile on his face, and he looked at his little paper and said, "Well, we're just going to cross this one off right now." And so, by Julia saying, "Hi, Judge," we dropped one of the penalty things right off the bat, and I don't remember what we paid for the stop sign or the curfew, but we paid our ticket. And it was just a testimony to a tough job situation for a guy my age, and I don't know how long he's been doing it. But then to see his demeanor change so much simply from a young woman being upbeat and smiley, and it was beautiful.